Hi, I'm Julie, your English coach, and today we are learning how to introduce yourself in English. You may have noticed that in today's lesson, I introduced myself, which I normally do not. The way that you introduce yourself is very important and it will look different in different situations. So today you will learn how to appropriately introduce yourself in various situations in English. Let's go. Let's start off with social situations. Generally, when you introduce yourself in a social context, it's enough to give a friendly greeting and your name. For example, hi, I'm Julie, nice to meet you. Now, of course, you can always add something to this depending on the situation. Let's imagine you are at a gathering, a party, a social event. Chances are that you know at least the person who invited you, but probably a few other people, and there will be some new people who you haven't met before. In this case, you have a couple of options. You could say something like, hi, I'm Julie, nice to meet you, and ask how they know the host or the person who invited you. You can say, hi, I'm Julie, nice to meet you. How do you know Joe? Okay, maybe Joe is our host. And this would give them the opportunity to say, oh, Joe is my neighbor or Joe is my colleague, and ask you, how do you know Joe? So this will make the introduction a little bit smoother. As well, if you happen to see someone who looks familiar and you think you've met them before, you could say, hi, I'm Julie. Have we met before? Or you look familiar. Have we met before? Okay, so there are a couple of options in this type of scenario. Generally, it's not necessary to go into too much detail with your introduction in a social or casual situation. You want to allow for the conversation to develop and flow naturally. Instead of memorizing a script about yourself and then saying that, because it could be too much information and it could come across as robotic and a little bit unnatural. So instead, keep it short, keep it sweet, give a nice greeting and say your name, followed by how are you, how's it going, or nice to meet you. So you may have noticed that in social situations, we generally introduce ourselves using our first name only. Now, in formal situations, professional or business scenarios, that's a little bit different. Depending on the situation, it may be more appropriate to use your first and last name. So your first name and your surname. Let's say that you're meeting someone at a networking event, at a conference, a large event where you are meeting other professionals who do not work in your company or in your industry. In these situations, it is generally expected and appropriate to introduce yourself using your full name. So for instance, you might say something like, hello, my name is Joe Smith. I'm the marketing manager at XYZ company. It's a pleasure to meet you, or it's nice to meet you. The other person will generally respond in the same way and tell you their full name, their position, and their company. Now, there are some different options for introducing yourself at professional events. You could mention your name, your industry, and your area of expertise, or whatever you specialize in, what you are specifically good at, what you focus on. So for instance, you could say, hello, I'm Lisa Smith. I work in finance and I specialize in risk management. Okay. My name is Lisa Smith. I work in the finance industry and I specialize in risk management. So this is when you want to keep it a little bit more general. You do not want to mention the name of your company for some specific reason, or when you're speaking to someone who is not from your industry and you're getting to know them possibly on a personal level or for a personal connection, and you still want to mention what you do professionally. This is a nice option as well. Now let's say that you are meeting a new fellow employee who's just starting at your company. In this case, it's not necessary to use your full name unless that is common within your company. So this depends on the internal culture of your company. Some companies are more formal and some companies are less formal. But generally speaking, we want to establish a sort of friendliness with our colleagues. So we can use our first name only, but we still want to introduce ourselves by our title so they know who we are. So you might say something like, Hello, I'm Joe, I'm the marketing manager here. Or hi, I'm Joe, I'm the marketing manager. Nice to meet you, or it's a pleasure to meet you. Or you can welcome them to your team. Now let's imagine the same scenario, that you are meeting a new fellow colleague, but you are aware of them before you've met them. Perhaps you have heard about them from HR or the hiring manager, and you know of them, but you haven't met them in person. You might say something like, hi, I'm Joe Smith, I'm the marketing manager, and you must be the new HR manager. A pleasure to meet you, nice to meet you, welcome, or great to have you. Okay, so we have a few different options here when you're talking to a new colleague. And again, you can decide whether it is more natural or appropriate to use your full name or to use your first name. Now, let's say that you are introducing yourself in an educational setting. It's similar to a professional situation. You would introduce yourself by stating your name, stating what you study, and what university or post-secondary institution you are attending. So for example, you could say, my name is Sarah Johnson. I am a third-year psychology student at ABC University, okay? And always nice to meet you. Or let's say that you are introducing yourself to a group of fellow students. You could say, I look forward to meeting all of you. I look forward to meeting all of you. Because in that moment, you're speaking to a group and you're not actually meeting anyone one-to-one. It's more that you are doing a general introduction. Okay, so of course, if you meet one person or two people, you can say, nice to meet you. But if you are going to be meeting people over time, you can switch it up a little and say, I look forward to meeting all of you, or I look forward to getting to know you all. I look forward to getting to know you all. Nowadays, many of us work and socialize online. So when it comes to introducing yourself online, that's also going to look a little bit different. Let's say that you're introducing yourself on an online profile, on your website, or on a social media platform, specifically on a page related to your work or what you do. You could use a structure like this. Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm a graphic designer, and I help businesses create a unique brand identity. Okay, so with this structure, you have said your name, who you are, and what you do. This is a really nice, simple formula because it is crystal clear. It's not nice to read things online and to be confused about who a person is and what they do. So if you are writing a profile or a bio or an introduction on a website, for instance, you want to make sure that you very clearly mention your name, who you are, and exactly what you do. Now, let's say you are introducing yourself at a job interview. This is when the interviewer asks you to tell them about yourself. They'll simply say, tell me about yourself, all right? Now, this is the most common interview question, but it's not the easiest to answer. Whenever you are being asked to talk about yourself in a job interview, remember that the interviewer is looking to hear about who you are professionally, not personally. It's very different than a personal or social introduction. I actually have a full lesson on how to answer this question, tell me about yourself, in a job interview. That was actually my very first YouTube lesson. I was a little bit nervous in that video, which you can probably see, but the content is very good. So I will link that lesson down below. If you would like to know more about how to answer this specific question, tell me about yourself, in a job interview, I'll link that down below. But in a nutshell, this is a nice idiom. In a nutshell, it means in summary or in short. Basically, there is a formula that you can follow to help have a nice structured, logical answer. And this formula is a present, past, and future formula. You start your answer by stating who you are now in the present. You talk a little bit about who you were professionally leading up to now, and you end your answer with what you would like to do moving forward or in the future. So here's an example of how to introduce yourself in a job interview or answer, tell me about yourself, using this formula. I am an intern at a graphic design agency and I have a bachelor's degree in graphic design. Over the past year, I've gained a very strong understanding of the role that design plays in marketing and advertising. I started off working very closely with an amazing design team, but over the past few months, I've had the opportunity to work directly with my own clients. So I specialize in logo design and branding for startups. I've been able to really capture their brand and bring their vision to life through my unique designs. So during my internship, I worked mostly with Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator, though I also use a few other programs for my personal designs. And moving forward, I would love the opportunity to join a company such as this one full-time and continue to learn and grow as a designer and share my creativity with many more clients. So this type of introduction is completely different, and it does take a little bit of preparation and practice. So if you have a job interview coming up, make sure that you are prepared. Now, let's say that you are introducing two other people to each other. There is also a simple formula that you can follow to make that introduction very smooth. You want to make sure that they know how you know each of them. Okay? I'll say that again. You want to make sure that both people know each other's names and they know how you know each person. So for example, you could say, Joe, I would like you to meet my friend Sarah. Sarah, this is my colleague Joe. Okay, I'll say that again. Joe, I would like you to meet my friend Sarah. Sarah, this is my colleague Joe. Okay, and then they will say, nice to meet you, and hopefully continue their conversation. One more example. Simon, this is my real estate agent Sarah. Sarah, this is my friend Simon. He's looking for a house, and I mentioned that I would put you in touch. Okay, so again, the key here is just to make sure that both people know each other's names. They both know how you know them, so they don't feel lost, like, why are you introducing me to this person, okay? Now, some general tips to help you with your introductions, regardless of the situation, whether it's a social, professional, or academic situation. Always make sure that you use a friendly, appropriate greeting and say your name clearly, okay? So hi, hello, good afternoon, my name is, nice to meet you. It's also very nice to repeat the other person's name back to them, okay? So if I say, hi, I'm Julie, nice to meet you, and you say, hi, I'm Joe, nice to meet you, I will say, pleasure to meet you, Joe, okay? This is something that I practice whenever I meet someone new. A, because it helps me to remember their name, and B, it's polite and it shows that I was listening to them, okay? So it's really nice to say, nice to meet you, Joe, or nice to meet you, the person's name, the first time you hear it. When you're meeting someone face to face, maintain eye contact and shake their hand if appropriate, okay? If appropriate. As well, make sure that you are adjusting your level of formality depending on the situation. If you don't know how formal to be, if you don't know if you should be casual or a little more formal, observe the other people. Look around at the other people in the situation, in the scenario, and see how formal they are being, okay? So if it's at work, of course, you can observe your colleagues. If it's in a social situation, you can observe the people around you. So generally, you want to try to match the level of formality in the place where you are. Another tip is to ask the other person a little bit about themselves if you have the chance. So let's say that you have introduced yourself and you have mentioned what you do professionally. It's a good idea to ask the other person, what do you do, or what line of work are you in? Okay, so you don't want to just make it one-sided and introduce yourself and then don't find out anything about the other person. You want to keep it open, keep the conversation flowing, and ask about them as well. And finally, be friendly. Try to smile. When you meet someone and they look very serious, it can be intimidating. It can feel like they don't want to talk to you. It can make you nervous, and it's very difficult to open up and continue a conversation. But when you meet someone who is friendly, who is positive, who is smiling, of course you are much more likely to want to talk to them, to build a connection with them, to have a conversation with them. And this is going to help create a positive first impression of you and build a nice rapport right from the beginning. So there you have it. That is how you introduce yourself in different situations and some tips to help you. And if you have any questions about this lesson, drop those in the comments. As well, don't forget to grab your free ebook, English Conversations Made Simple. That will help you to further develop a natural and confident conversation in English. It's free. I will link it below the lesson. Thank you so much for watching, learning, and spending time with me today. I will see you very soon in another one.